Hello, welcome to the Alchemists Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
We're both holding grounding tools. I'm Emily.
I'm KristaLyn. I don't know what to say.
I know both of us, we went round and round like talking about how we're going to address things in this episode, what we're going to talk about. And like both of our guides kept stopping us and being like, we're just going to talk. So we genuinely don't know what's about to come out of our mouths in this episode. Like
we usually try to get on the same page. And in like 99% of our views, we are on the same page on this topic specifically and particularly. Mm-hmm. However, when we were like, what's the message? How are we going to present it? How do we, go about delivering it with grace? We just got a hard step back. Mm-hmm. So yeah, doesn't usually happen for me when I'm going to be presenting something to an audience of people. It's usually something that happens in private readings, typically just for family. But you guys are all family in a certain capacity, especially right now. I think, there's something about this that is really, and it's been a discussion in my family for a while. There's something about this that really makes clear certain divides, but in that division, there's also the flip side that it's bringing us together so much. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny. I'm going to wax philosophic here for a second. One of the things that people always say about the population in this country in particular is we were never more united than after 2001, September 11, because something had happened that put us all on the same page. And a majority of people right now have a reason to feel on the same page in a more personal way than I think ever before. Yeah. And so in a sense, this adversity that we are facing, it's going to unify us, but it's an activation, I think, in a very big way. And one of the things that I think is going to come up over the course of this recording is how to activate in the highest expression. And that's not being passive. That's not being complacent or complicit. That's not sitting down and letting things sort themselves out. It's what does radical aligned action look and feel like?
Yeah. We're obviously talking about the Supreme Court ruling and overturning. And there's been a bunch of them. Honestly, there's been a bunch of them. There's going to be more. We all know there's going to be more. The energy is that of more of that. So this is like us ramping up. To be totally honest, this is a ramping up energy. And I don't want to speak for Krista. I'm personally very, very angry. And we really got into, before we were on here, we want to help all of you express and navigate that anger without vengeance. How do we use that anger as an activation? How do we move forward through all of the anger and the pain and the deep frustration that we're feeling in a way that is activating and not just simply lashing out? It needs to be done intentionally and focused, which is hard to do right now. Genuinely hard to do. I want to lash out. Everyone wants to lash out genuinely. And that is only going to get us so far. It's the persistence and aligned action that is going to get us further, which is really, really challenging. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And we're going to talk about the astrology a little bit too, because things are
this is
wibbly wobbly.
But this is the training montage is over. We're coming into, if we're going to quote a really epic adventure movie, this is fighting Thanos. We're coming to the part where it's like, you know what? We've all had our individual things going on, but now we assemble. And I think that that's really important. It's hilarious to me. Over this last week, I wrote my notes for the astrology transits over a month ago. I write it before each month so I can do the monthly astrology overview on our YouTube on Alchemists Inkwell. You can find it for June there. I'm going to have July's up by the time this airs. This episode airs, so you'll find next month's as well, which is going to be really important because there is a lot of activated energy. It's funny, I was calling it dynamic back in March and April. It's activated now. It's not just dynamic, it's activated, it's charged energy. And with what is with all the Avengers quotes coming into my mind right now, but with great power and ability, there comes a certain responsibility to not hold back, but to channel that energy, that enthusiasm, that passion into the right places where they fit and make the impact that they're designed to make. One of the things I want us to remember, and apparently this is really important, is that there is still an overarching story happening here. And now we're all playing a part. So we don't want to take an action that feels good in the moment, and we don't want to enable ourselves to get fixated on just taking a hit of endorphins because that felt good right now. That's where the vengeance comes in. It makes me feel good right now, but I'm only going to come back again later to try it and recreate that feeling again, using tools that aren't sustainable and aren't building a future that I want to see. And so even last week when I was scripting my planetary skits, which I try to keep lighthearted for the skits and then try to be as practical and useful in the delineations as possible, I channeled in the word vengeance for July 1st's aspect of Mars square Pluto, making sure that you are taking radical aligned action rather than vengeance, because those are the two sides of the coin as it's flipping in the air, and you get to catch it and decide where you're going to put that energy. And I was like, vengeance? Really? Like, are we really going to be in a place next week where people are taking vengeance? I know but then that was Wednesday. And then Friday rolled around and I started looking at even just last week's episode. As I was looking at a little snippet to be able to share with people, it just became so relevant what we were talking about. I found comfort in the words that we came up with. And I'm really glad that energy was there. But now, I hope everybody listening to this has taken the time they need to feel their feelings. And
if not, feel them more. It's going to be waves. Like keep feeling them, keep processing them, because we're in no way saying you need to take like this responsibility over your emotions to express them in this perfectly aligned way. It's not going to happen. And we know that, and we're not putting more pressure on you to do that. However, feel them in a way that feels the most aligned, but let them actually come out and go through you. Don't bypass them with the endorphin hit is kind of where we're getting at in that space. Sorry to interrupt you, but like that is super duper essential.
And it's important to remember, you are the superhero of this story that you are living in right now. That's why you're here. It's one of the things that I find in an astrology chart is so validating. It shows us how we are the hero of a story that we came here to help unfold. So you are important, and your individual choices and actions are huge. And it's really important to remember that in a story, the way it starts is a call to action. If there weren't something that called and made it just undeniable that main character, that hero, had to go out, change themselves, change their views, change everything about their perspective of the world, and make it better than when they started, it would just be a hero sitting on their couch, not really being a hero. There's a calling, and you will know it when you feel it. And if you're looking for like, what does that look like? There are so many tools you can use, including astrology, including consulting with people who can help you see it from an outside perspective, including using your own divination or prayer or intention tools that you find. Because I know that from all walks of life, many of us are feeling not only sort of attacked and victimized, for sure, but there's also a little bit of blend. I can't speak for many people outside of myself and my partner, but there's this blend of guilt of how did we let it get this far? What did I miss coming up to this point? What could I have done before? And the reality is you're here now. And Brooke Castillo on her Life Coach podcast said something that I think she may have also gotten from Brene Brown, but it's like, this is how it was always going to turn out. And I know that because this is how it is. And so we can't be dwelling too much on what we should have or could have done. And I think even one of my delineations for this week was release the shoulds, let them go, because we have to do something now. We have to be living in this moment and asking whatever divinity we connect to, whatever name we give to source, where do you want me to move?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing of like, this is a perfect time to ask your guides, okay, where do I go? And it sounds, especially if you don't have a very easy communication relationship with your guides, I know that can sound daunting, but it's very simple to do it in a very tangible way as well. So sometimes if you boil it down to two options and you're like, okay, I can do this, I can move in this direction, or I can move in that direction, simply saying it to your guides of, okay, if tonight goes in this sort of way, I'll go one way. And if tonight goes in that sort of way, I'll go the other way. You guys just make tonight go that way, and I will know which direction you want me to move. It works always. I know 100%. Krista's used it. I've used it so
Over
many
the last
times,
few days, I've
especially
used it a ton. Yeah.
yeah, especially if I'm too in my fields about something, that's what I do, because I know when my guides come through, and if I'm too in my fields, I won't hear them. I know they're there. I know they're talking to me. I'm just actively ignoring them on purpose.
Mhm.
And I know that. So this is my way of bypassing my own brain's tendency to block stuff out when I am feeling big feelings. And so that it works incredibly well. The other thing you can also do is show me the aligned action to take. Give me the opportunity to take whatever aligned action you want me to do. The thing with that is if you ask for that, they will bring it to you. You have to be ready to move on it though, because if it comes to you and you ignore it, it will come to you bigger and come to you. Oops, I just bonked the microphone. Sorry, everyone. It comes to you bigger, it comes to you bigger. From then on out. So it's one of those things of, if you're feeling like you want to do something, let that thing come. Sometimes that is sit there and cry. Sometimes that is tomorrow, just donate these things. Like you get a thing for donation, or you see a video about someone talking about ways you can get involved, or like it can be really simple. And sometimes that's the best we can do. Sometimes it's an opportunity to correct the verbiage of someone you love, or to address, hatred or bias that is coming from someone that you love, and it gives you that opportunity as well to be like, wait a second, let's reassess the way you just spoke and let's fix that and make that different and like give you a different perspective. So there's a ton of different ways that it can present yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean like you have to go and challenge the world, because that I think is a lot of where the despair energy is coming into for collective. When I feel that out, is people feel like, what can I actually do that makes a difference? I don't have a lot of power. You do. Your circles are influenced by you, period. And that in and of itself, you can speak with your money, you can speak with your time, you can speak with where you place your energy, you can speak with who you communicate with. All of those things create a ripple effect in collective. For some reason, this seems important just to mention, our cells actually talk to one another. So when you've gone through an activation, every person you come in contact with, whether that's the checker at the grocery store or your best friend, their cells get the same activation, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And that is huge. You have so much power in that space to make conscious decisions and allow your activation to activate those around you as well.
On that note, check your belief works. So we were talking about this before, and now I know why it came up. As I was walking around this weekend, every time I have alone time, personal story, when I walk around, I'm always talking to my guides. And it's like, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And I'm pacing at the same time as doing it. Anybody who would have a camera in my house would just be laughing. But all I kept getting was, give your anger a name. Because once you name it, you can understand it. And once you can understand it, then you can team up with it, and it transmutes and alchemizes from anger into motivation, into purpose, into direction. And it becomes not just anger, because we know that anger leads to the dark side for all my Star Wars fans out there. You can transmute it into empowerment. And that really is sort of, I've been having a lot of conversations with the energy of Sekhmet this week. Fun fact, I have a really incredible interaction with Sekhmet, who is a goddess of destruction from Egypt. But I like to think of it as a goddess of transformation, transmutation. And the asteroid Sekhmet is on my Jupiter in my 9th house, which is activated this year. So it's not surprising to me that this is happening and that the new moon is about to happen right around there for me. But if you name your anger, then it becomes like a character in your story, your side character, your mentor even. Allow it to be wisdom rather than, again, that motivation to just react. We're taking action. We are acting. We are not reacting. And that's so important. And if you name it, it will probably give itself a name that sounds a lot like a belief. And this is where belief work that goes back generations is going to be helpful, because the stuff we're dealing with right now is not just here and now stuff. This is stuff that is the culmination on so many levels between gender, sexuality, and even race. A lot of the stuff that is being addressed right now, I'm going to even go out and say targeted right now, is stuff that has been needing resolution and attention and love and nurturing and action for generations. If you find a belief that you can't stand seeing in society, see if you have it, muscle test for it, because you could actually change that belief within yourself, heal it for generations before you and coming after you, coming, past you, your generations ahead. And also you'll be able to have better clarity of how to make a difference for it in an aligned and high expression, graceful expression now.
Yeah. Also, if you want to know how to do belief work, we did do an episode that gave you a bunch of ways to do it and how to muscle test, all those different things a couple weeks back. So just scroll back through, you'll find it. I think it's called Of Belief Work or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really close. But so if you're like, how do I do that? We got you.
Yeah.
We gave you tools on how to do that. Of course, didn't realize we were planning for this, but apparently we did, which is always how it works. I also want to encourage anyone, if you feel like you need an escape, take it. Like escapism is fine. Escapism gets a very bad rep because people are like, oh, don't use this for escapism or that for escapism. Are you kidding me? Escapism is essential to living. Like, it is so important. So if you're feeling like everything is too heavy, hit your pause button. Do something that's just for fun. Do something that's disconnected from the news. Do something that's disconnected from the energy of collective that's causing this. That is perfectly fine. You're not going to recharge your batteries unless you recharge your batteries. Like, it's not going to just naturally happen. You actually have to disconnect and pause and move away from it. It's super important. It's not, we have this I've been actively pulling beliefs on this all weekend, which is why I'm talking now. We have this idea of, we have this sense of duty. When something like this happens, we have to be tuned in every minute of every day, understanding exactly what's going on, what people are doing about it, how we can help constantly. That in and of itself is limiting belief. Yes, you do. If you feel aligned and pushed into action, by all means, that is your direction and where you're being shoved. Do it. Does that mean you have to be completely connected, completely immersed 24/7 all the time? No. And it can get really detrimental really quickly. So release that and do things for escapism for yourself when you hit that point. It's all about understanding your alignment and when things are not aligned for you to move forward. And instead you have to breathe and sit with it, which is also why I all weekend long didn't make a statement on what was going on. I didn't bring it up. I didn't post anything because I needed to hit that pause button and be disconnected and channel myself without being connected to every little thing, so that I could come forward with the space that I needed to come forward in.
Yeah. And if you try too hard, this has happened in my life. I've seen it happen with a lot of people's intuition, even my mom's, with these trips we would take to help people. If you try to push it too hard, you're going to miss what you're supposed to actually be doing, because you're so preoccupied with what you think you should be doing. And that, I think I should be doing this, is for someone else. It's not for you. It's not a divine expression. This is what the society says looks like being a hero or taking action or whatever, but you are not society. You are a part of society, but you have to really acknowledge how unique you are among society. And you have to be able to be willing to fulfill your role when the ball comes into your court. And if you are looking at someone else's game, the ball's going to hit you in the face and then go back into somebody else's court. And I don't think you'll ever truly miss what you're supposed to do. So you can relax and wait for it to show up. But if I told you how many times this weekend I have literally just opened my hands, because physically opening my hands does this heart opening move where it relaxes me and puts me into a space where I can quiet enough to listen rather than just asking and begging for answers, and just said, okay, what do you want me to do? And I'll put an option. I will mentally put an option in this hand and an option in this hand, and just ask for muscle testing to lean me one way or another, or be pulled in one direction or another. There's every way you can think of to do it. And that's really guided me. I've needed it on, a social level with everyone else, but there have been some personal things this weekend that came up with me as well. I'm in a very emotional year. It's a lunar perfection year. For those of you who have seen my video on annual perfections that I just did on TikTok, for me, it's a lunar one, which means the moon is really my best friend, but also governing a lot of what's going on. And so this happened while the moon was also transiting my 8th house. And the 8th house is very often associated with death, with transformation, with challenge. And one of the things that contemplation has led me to over this weekend, that I've been contemplating a lot of challenge, is that we have been brought to a point where we tried to fix it our own way, and we tried to fix it this way, and we tried to fix it that way. And finally, we are throwing our hands up in the air and asking, and sometimes even demanding of divinity, of God, of the universe, I don't get it. I'm stuck. What do you want? And it's okay to be able to say that and say, I don't get it. What do you want? And you can just hear the sigh. And I'm sure you've had this experience too, Emily, with your guides, where they say, oh, finally, now let's get started. Because you've put that's what it means to take yourself out of your own way, is to be willing to co-create rather than be pushing yourself to make action here, which your view is limited to just here. If you can co-create, you can bring in the ability to make radical, vast change on a bigger scale in perfect timing.
In alignment, for sure. I do want to offer just a little bit of like direct communication my guides had with me, to give you an example of this. I was on vacation this week, and I was on vacation when the news broke. I basically woke up on Friday morning, got the news immediately, and looked like full tears, like very upset, very not okay, very uncomfortable. And I was sitting outside on like the balcony of like my hotel room space, like just being like, what do I do? How do I move forward from this? Like, what is going to happen? How is this going to be okay? I've channeled that it's going to be okay. We talked about it in last week's episode of how it's going to be okay, how this summer is going to be bumpy and rough, but we're moving through it, and we're going to like come out of this on the other side. This is what change looks like. This is what the Pluto return of the United States looks like. Like, we've channeled this, we've tuned into it very, very in depth. But in that moment, was very upset, and I'm like, nothing feels okay. All of this feels horrific. And I live in a state where I live in California, and that's still progressive. That doesn't, and it hit really hard. And right then, as I was looking out over the balcony, a rainbow showed up over the water that was like out in front of me. And I was like, okay, because that is my validation sign from my guides that essentially everything's going to be okay. You're not alone in doing this. So pick one. Pick a sign that your guides can send you if you're struggling to be in your feels too much about it, and let them send it to you to help you know that everything will be okay, and we're going to get through this, because it was really helpful, and it allowed me to pause for a second and take a breath and move forward. Okay. When otherwise probably would have kept spiraling.
This is also a really great time to go ground yourself in nature and remember that humanity is just this one aspect of this amazing consciousness that is the planet. And you can let the trees and nature and the animals comfort you, hold space for you. And also you can find so much inspiration for how to connect and grow and move and take action in the reflection of nature around us. And it's that stillness that reminds us that this is a moment that we're feeling trapped in. And it's okay that you're feeling that way, but that there is so much bigger out there, and it's okay to remember that there's something bigger going on. And there's so many more mechanisms happening outside of our scope, that we can take comfort in the cogs of time and astrology and cosmos and earth and all of those things are turning. And this is just one of the chimes on the clock.
Absolutely. Do you want to touch on the astrology that's coming up this week a little bit?
I would love to. Yeah. So
okay.
Again, one of the really important things to remember is that we are stepping into our power. And power is not like, there is destruction in power sometimes, and I acknowledge that, but that's not where it ends. So I want to make sure that as we're acting and as we're coming up with ideas and strategizing this week, we are realizing that we are going into the night in order to pursue a sunrise. So keep that in mind. It's Egyptian lore and all of those things. When the sun sets, it goes through these trials and tribulations. If you've seen Moon Knight on Disney Plus, I don't know why I am doing so many
You're just
Marvel
going
things
into
right now.
Avengers.
I know. I don't understand why, but like, it's really important. It's a lot of Egyptian lore in there, which I really appreciate, having so much of astrology rooted in Egyptian period times. So anyway, you go through this period, but you rise again. If you've read Demetra George's Mysteries of the Dark Moon, it's all about the dark moon being this crucible of healing and transformation, and death not being the finish line, death being the beginning of a process of rebirth. So we are in that, and I really encourage you to remember, how is this leading to the rebirth as we navigate this week?
If you feel really, yeah, I agree. But if you feel really drawn to like Egyptian stuff, but you want like a really easy way to get into it, read the Cain Chronicles. They're by Rick Riordan. It's the same guy who wrote Percy Jackson, which is a great way to get into Greek mythology as well. It's explained really, really easy. It's explained on a middle grade level, and it's awesome. The stories are great. It's super inclusive. But Cain Chronicles is the Egyptian version of that. It's just a trilogy. I whipped through it in like 2 weeks. It's not a lot to digest. I've read it with my kids. It's really fun. But that is a really easy way to get into that. Just to touch on that really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And give me more to relate to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because there is no sponsorship, guys. I'm just an enthusiast. But anyway, on July 1st, we do have
we were sponsored by Marvel. That'd be great.
I'm not saying we shouldn't be. If that's out in the universe, let it come on in, because we could do a lot of good there. Yeah. Anyway, July 1st, Mars will square Pluto. Now, Pluto's moving backwards. It's in retrograde, and Mars is going, so they're like mutually applying right now. They're going towards each other. That's a lot of pressure. Imagine the magnets kind of pushing together, right? And they're coming closer and closer and closer, and you can feel that draw, and then they're going to connect on the 1st. So we are feeling this already. Like, again, astrology lately has been so literal. I don't even feel like it's impressive anymore when I explain what's going on. It's just like, well, yeah, that's happening. Yes, this is happening. What I want to bring about this, and again, I wrote this last month. So the first plot point of this, because it's a square. So if we think about the planets conjoining and then going through a circular journey until they can join again, this is the square that's opening the story here. So this is a first plot point in a journey that began on March 3rd, when Mars, Pluto, and Venus all conjoined. And it slows down a little bit because of retrogrades now, and it will kind of pick up again in the opposition next May. So we are in a very dynamic, energetic, charged up moment of this story. And so thinking about that, things that came up around then, obviously we started understanding a lot about what the world is going through right now. The committee that's going on was kind of announced at that point back in March. A lot of things with Ukraine were going on, and the hints of this situation with Roe v. Wade were also coming up. So know that we are in the first plot point of this. This is the call to action. It makes sense. However, think about your fundamentals here with Mars, right? Mars, god of war, fiery, really ambitious, can be really, especially in Aries right now, and leaning towards going into Taurus. The last time we were at this kind of point was actually January of 2021. I will leave that to your history check. When Mars was kind of at this point, getting ready to move into Taurus, which Mars will do on the 5th of July. Yeah. So the fact that we're revisiting a lot of these feelings and themes and energies is right in there. Like, we can see that it's coming up again. It's meant to be coming up. It's meant to be rhyming, which means repeating, but done differently. Repeating, but learned from last time. That kind of stuff. Squaring Pluto. Pluto is very Sekhmet. Pluto is thinking about all of your deities like Hades and things like that. It is the death and rebirth energy. So when you have Mars coming into conflict, this square with Pluto, the first point of conflict in the story that they are now telling, you get what we're in right now, and the feelings that can go along with that. A lot of people this week who aren't being conscious about how they're feeling are going to be feeling aggressive. They're going to be pursuing evolution through destruction. And the way I propose that we look at this is our opportunity to be refined through fire. Or a lot of the keywords that came up for me over the weekend as I was contemplating was trial by fire. And when you come out on the other side of fire, you've burned away the stuff that is impure. You've burned away the things that don't survive, right? And so let's be that purified form of ourselves, speaking with authority, speaking with internal wisdom, knowing from our core where we're headed, being refined into gold from whatever alloy came before or whatever. I don't know as much about that as I probably should. But instead of choosing aggression and destruction, let's choose ambition towards rebirth and evolution. I'm going to challenge us to keep that in mind. I literally warned my husband about this, saying, hey, you know how angry we're feeling right now? This is the feeling of this week. Let's be conscious of it. Let's not take it out on each other. Let's see how we can channel it into something that does good.
Yeah.
So that is the first. Then on the second, Mercury is actually going to trine Saturn, which is also retrograde. And at the same time, it's going to square Neptune. This is interesting to me because there's a lot of calculating going on, but it's kind of like that meme that they did the Reading Rainbow song with, where there's math going on in space and you're just like, I'm not really sure, but I want to grasp this, so there's support in progress, but we're having to really understand the rules enough to know where they bend and to know like what's going to be helpful to bend. So discerning this is going to be really key as we're understanding, navigating around, like we're touching into the gray area, which I'm not good at. My mom's probably watching this and laughing out loud. But we're going into understanding things enough to know how to make them work for the favor of Saturn is in Aquarius right now. This is equity for people. This is restructuring things to make sure that society benefits. So we're getting around, I literally wrote this last month, but we're getting around red tape and getting creative to solve issues. And let it be creative, right? We don't have to be angry in order to make a difference. You can, if you've ever seen Rise of the Guardians, which is a great movie, instead of being afraid, let's have some fun instead. And then you're moving in alignment and you become unstoppable and you become unflappable and imperturbable. And there is a difference. I want to just point out, there is a difference between having fun at someone else's expense and having fun because this lights me up and this is the path that I know I can pursue. And this is my zone of genius. And this is what I was born to be able to do. Let yourself be lit up by the choices you make.
Yeah.
Because having fun doesn't mean you're not making a difference. It means you're making a aligned difference.
I also just want to say, be sure you're doing your research right now, especially going into these particular transits where a lot of people are not going to be doing their research. It's going to be a lot of trigger heavy posts, trigger heavy videos, like
and
very much
doing it
like
on
trying,
purpose.
they're trying to get people to be baited into jumping, basically, of like, jump to action, do this, do that. Awesome. Understand the motivation behind it, but like do your own research as much as you can of what's actually going on, or follow credible sources that are not going to put out that type of content that's going to push you because they're playing with your emotions. It's really unaligned. And if you do feel that, like pause yourself for a second, be like, okay, this really activated me. Like this video like really got me on the edge of this thing. I need to look this up so that I can make sure that my energy is pointed towards a direction that I want it to go. Just be really, really conscious of that, because I see it already coming up in the energy. It's going to be very clickbaity is not the right word, but it's almost like doom scrolling to a 10th level. Like it's like
instigating,
intense instigation.
Yeah.
And with the direction of wanting to make change, wanting to make a difference, wanting to act, and totally understand the logic, understand the need. I get all of that, but just be really conscious of what you're being instigated into doing. So make sure that you're really open to that, because people are going to be reacting to these transits in that way.
Yeah, I have already seen posts the day of all of this happening. I saw posts that like it was results of what had happened already being posted as stories on like Reddit and social media. And you have to like literally go into the comments for context. And often there's somebody in there who's like, this is already fake. Here's how you can find the source. You can find your own sources too. But if you're immediately triggered into, oh my God, this is terrifying, find context in the discourse that's going on in the comments, and then pursue based on that context, which is going to get you at least a little bit more balanced. Usually you can then pursue like, did this really happen? How do I find out more? And ask your guides and your own faith to really guide you towards what's the truth here. Is this true? Does this feel true? And if it does, how can I find tangible evidence that it is true? And just keep allowing yourself to interview what you're taking in. And that's all you have to do. And like I said, I've seen it from trying to get people ramped up, from people who supported this decision and from people who don't support the decision. Everybody is under an influence of getting charged up for their cause right now. Be passionate about your cause for sure, but don't get all, ramped up and then just start flying off the handle, because you're not making as impactful as a difference when you're not using your mind and your heart and your soul in accordance with each other, as when you are seated in your power and standing up and making a decision. And when you're doing that from an almost neutral place of, I just know, that's when you know a little bit more that you're in the right mindset, the right energy, the right space. So if something makes you feel a very extreme feeling, don't act then. Pursue it until you feel like really solid on what you understand. And then you can move, and then you'll know what to do with it rather than just reacting. It's so important. And then on the 5th, both Mercury and Mars will be ingressing on the same day, forming a sextile with each other. Mercury will be moving out of its domicile Gemini into Cancer. Mars will be moving out of its domicile Aries into Taurus. And so these two planets forming a sextile, there is supportive energy here as they move out of this charged up energy into water and earth signs. So it kind of turns the volume down a little bit. And I think at this point, the hype that is being created will subside just a little bit. And then we can say, okay, now that the white noise is gone, what am I left with? Where can I move? And that doesn't mean that the action is over. That doesn't mean that we just let it be ignored, but it does mean that you'll be able to kind of put sound dampening headphones on and focus, which might help a lot. There's still a lot of emotion tied into this, but we're going to be speaking, with Mars in Taurus, we're really getting down to brass tacks. With Mercury in Cancer, we're saying, okay, I can speak what I feel now, and I can interview myself and understand it. And how do you use those things to really do something that feels right for you?
Yeah. And as in every situation, just like Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. I saw a video of a man who was blocking traffic so protesters could walk by eating a burrito and just standing there in front of a car so no traffic could get through. And he just ate his entire burrito, just like shrugging his shoulders anytime someone honked. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just eating a burrito. And it's just those little tiny things that feel so connective and beautiful and reminds us like, oh yeah, like little things make big impact. And so look for the helpers. It'll help you get through. Yeah. Very much so. Also, this is the last episode of the month, which means it's our bookend episode.
Bookending.
Wow. So we are bookending it up. One thing I want to touch on just before we get into the bookend really quick. Thank you for all of those who filled out our survey response on where to travel with us. We have locked in a destination, which we are not announcing yet, but we are so freaking excited. So we will let you know as soon as that is coming up, because we cannot wait to travel with you. Oh, grab the corgi. That is perfect.
Animals will also make you feel better. To everybody who's watching, this is Zelda. And to everybody who's listening, there is a corgi. I hope her jingle makes you feel comforted.
Yes. She's also half asleep. She's like, why are you grabbing me exactly? I was resting. But
we will be announcing that soon. I'm so excited.
We really locked it in today before we recorded, and it felt amazing.
It felt so good.
Yeah. So do you want to touch on what you read this month? Yeah.
So I read Legendborn this month. And it was so refreshing because I'd gone through a period of trying to find a good story. And I think next I'm actually going to go into the one you recommended today by Rick Riordan, just because I'm looking for something lighthearted after the heavy feelings of the weekend. Fun. Yeah. So just, Legendborn was awesome because not only was it well written, an amazing story, had an ending that led into the assuredness of a sequel, but didn't leave me feeling robbed of closure. Just there's so many great things I could say about Legendborn. Definitely read it. I love the interpretation and the parallels from the Arthur legend, incorporating other traditions and techniques and I'm going to say traditions again, just the different magic systems that blend together and how it's different names for the same thing and how each place uses it differently. And, the moral areas and contrast between the two and how they view them and all of those things. So cool. But it challenged my perspectives and my perceptions. And I loved that because again, this is what high vibration fiction is. There's so much, it's not told from my typical voice. It's not a story that I think is even told for someone who looks a lot like me. It's told for people from a perspective that I have not had the ability to see from, through eyes that I never have been able to have. And just, it blends them in so naturally that when it comes up, if there were beliefs that I had the opportunity to change, I was able to recognize them and change them, but I didn't feel attacked when they came up. they would come up and I'd be like, oh, wow, that's not helpful here. Let me change that. It healed so much for me, where I didn't realize that there were still these little pieces that needed to be there. And I'm so glad to now have that awareness added to my worldview and concept. So I definitely recommend it because it educates just as much as it entertains, and it heals just as much as it feels amazing to be able to imagine. So everything about it was really great.
I agree. I love that book. I've read it as well, and it's just
can't wait for
it's fantastic. I know it's coming. It's really soon.
There's some dynamics between the characters. Yeah. The characters are amazing. And there are some dynamics there where I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see how they address this clearly brewing point of conflict. And I have no room to speak on how that might be addressed. I can't wait to see how someone who has a right to speak on it proposes it be addressed. And it's just so neat to be able to witness that kind of thing.
Yeah. I fully agree. I read Iron Widow. Read Iron Widow. I can't say it enough. I cannot express how much that book meant to me. I loved it. It was incredible. If you need a place to challenge some divine feminine rage, read Iron Widow. Read it. It's so good. It is so good.
And I add it to my reading list right now.
Yeah. The author, whose name I can't pronounce, they're Chinese, and it's based on Chinese mythology, and it is a mech story, which I'm not usually about. I'm not into sci-fi typically. I will read everything this author writes for the rest of time. It is so well done. It is so beautiful. They do a lot of this, especially in like, they challenge all the classic kind of female tropes where like, even if you have like a strong main character, you come to this point in this decision and you know the character's always gonna make the wrong choice, and it makes you so freaking angry and frustrated, but you're like, okay, I'm in it for the story. Never. Like every time you come to that point in the book, the character makes a different choice and you're like, oh yes. Like there's one scene where the main character just sheds off all shame. It's fantastic. It is a love triangle that results in polyamory and not in picking one or the other. And it's awesome. It's not really a spoiler. That's how it's marketed like very heavily. So like, I'm not like ruining anything. It's really, really well done. It's awesome. And I can't wait to read the second one. It needs to happen right now. Like I love the book. It was awesome. Just really, really cool. Very incredibly feminist as well, just in general. So challenging the system, really neat. I also read Nimona, which is a graphic novel, which is also fantastic. It's about a villain sidekick, kind of, and really cool found family kind of energy. It was really fun. And then on the plane, I read Guild, which the fourth book in the series just came out, and it's kind of a King Midas retelling. It's weird. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it at all. It's super big on Book Talk. People love it. They say it's a romance. It's not. That right there. Maybe the second book is. The first book is not a romance. There is no romantic components in this book, and I don't know why Book Talk has labeled it as this like romance thing. Like I said, maybe the second book is. The first book is not, and it's real weird. It's real weird. Also, check trigger warnings extensively, especially if you have any sort of like sexual trauma. Like check trigger warnings. I'll probably read the second one because it feels like reality TV and I kind of need a distraction. So that's my thoughts there on that one. And then I am almost done with This Is Ever After. And it's definitely going to be a comfort read for me too. I know it's one of Krista's comfort reads now. I love it. It's wonderful. The way it's written, the voice of it is just wonderful. The characters are wonderful. The kingdom of Chickpea is wonderful. It's like a D&D campaign in a book, but written really funny. And it's it's just lovely. So if you need some escapism, I especially recommend listening to it because the narrator is wonderful and hits
So
the
good.
voices of everyone so well, and you know who's talking, and they're the way that they quip back and forth, and like when they scoff and like different things. Like it's super well done. And it's been a wonderful little escape feeling that I just adore so much. So that's my wrap up. I think that's all.
Yeah. That is not nearly long enough of a story either. Like I could have listened to it for twice as long.
Easy.
Just so good on
This
every
is great.
level.
Yeah. He also, the author, has another book that's about pirates. I'm also kind of in the middle of reading that one. But that one's kind of in hardback and I've just been working through it slowly. It's not as satisfying, but it's still good. But yeah, that's kind of my reading wrap up. So hopefully there's a recommendation for comfort in there, and also a recommendation if you need to channel rage in there. There's a bunch of different stuff. You want to watch something or read something that's kind of like trashy reality TV. I don't want to call it trashy. It's not trashy, but it feels like reality TV where you're kind of like, this is not high art, but I'm going to read it anyway. That's how Guild felt to me. So here we are.
I like it. Yeah. And I want to thank everybody who's listening. Gosh, we see you, but we're also really glad that you're here, that you you really justify and create a space for us to be able to come, and we feel held just as much by your energy as we hope you feel held by ours, and we feel your support as much as we hope you feel our support. We are coming together and doing things, and it's going to be really crazy, amazing things. And this is what living an adventure looks like. And day to day, it's just nice to know you guys are there.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We really, really appreciate you. Remember, just honor your feelings, honor yourself, and we're going to get through this. And there is another side. We will come out at the end of this. There will be a next phase that isn't just dark and doom and gloom. It's not where we're going. So just hold on to that, and we're going to get through this ride. So, and as always, remember, please go out and go make some magic. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.